Hello and welcome to another episode of the Media Vending Podcast. We're laughing because I had a little fake out there with Aidan,
I
where
I
I
was I
took
was
took a,
waiting for
took a
you,
breath.
waiting for you to
I took
to
a
get
breath
us rolling.
and then I stopped.
I'm just here. I'm just
Anyway,
here for
welcome
the
back to
ride.
another episode of the Media Vending Podcast. My name is Jason, and I am joined by Aidan as usual. Hello, sir.
That's me.
It is. How have you been?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Just hanging around, chilling out.
You've had
All
a
of the above.
haircut since the last time we recorded a podcast.
Was it since the last time? I
I think so. I don't think you
no.
had
We
the
did the
hair.
Minecraft one. I had my haircut for that.
You did? I
I
just
did.
typed in Minecraft info onto Google thinking it would pull it up.
Yeah, that's where you're gonna find it.
Yeah. Anyway, looking good. So today we're going to be talking about movies because there were a lot of them that came out this summer to very mixed and negative reviews. And I have seen a very small amount of them, but I've been keeping up with a lot of the discourse online for a lot of these bigger films. And overall, the consensus seems to be that the summer blockbuster, as it is known, has kind of flopped this year. What would you say in response to that, Aiden?
See, I have conflicting opinions because I feel like this summer was one of my favorite summers for movies. I feel like I saw the most movies I've enjoyed in a single summer than I have. But I think there was just more things that came out this summer that were interesting to me. And be it chance or whatnot, I was just in the theaters more than I usually am. So I enjoyed pretty much everything I saw. I think all of the biggest disappointments and flops, I didn't see any of them in theaters. I didn't
I
see
mean, that contributes
Flash.
to
I
the
didn't see.
flops, doesn't it?
Yeah. Um, I did see Indiana Jones 5. I think that's considered on the flop end of the spectrum. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it though. I liked it, but it's funny because I feel like I watched so many movies this summer, and yet when I look at a list, there's still so many that I didn't see. And there's only a few on that list that like I actively would want to go and watch later. Some of them like I'm okay to miss, but
Yeah. Some of them I just completely forgot about till we were looking at the list. Like,
there was a lot that came out. Well, let me here. You talk about it for a second. I'm gonna pull something up.
for sure. So the one that came to mind for me was like About My Father, because I remember everyone having like fits of laughter when we saw the trailer for that. It was I think the Robert De Niro with the peacock, and that was kind of what people took away from that trailer. But it seemed like it was going to be pretty funny. I have not heard like anything about that at all, and I pulled it up on Rotten Tomatoes, the bastion of all things review, and 35% from critics, 81% from audiences, and we'll go into those Rotten Tomatoes scores a little bit later. But
Yeah.
circling back around to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, it lost $100 million.
Yeah, I saw that. The Disney's had I think 3 movies that lost me. Haunted Mansion I think was the latest one, which is a no-brainer. I don't
You
why
release it in summer, and also 2 years after you release the Muppets version? That is just a death sentence.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't think I would have been interested in seeing Haunted Mansion either way, but like I probably could have been convinced to go if it was during like October. Be like, I'm in the mood. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
I'll go see it. Like some of my favorite like uh Halloween shows, Over the Garden Wall, which is arguably my favorite like autumn show of all time. If that aired in like June, I probably wouldn't have watched it when it came. I mean, I didn't watch it when it came out regardless
No.
because I saw it years later. But like, it's just you gotta put those shows in the right time because like there's certain it'd be like releasing Klaus in the summer.
Have you
But
seen that one yet, by the way?
I need to watch it this winter.
You
It's
do.
high on my list. But I've got my list. I'm gonna start in March of all of the new releases that I've watched this summer, and there's a lot.
Okay.
So I saw Creed 3, John Wick 4, Dungeons and Dragons, Super Mario Bros., Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Cross the Spider-Verse, Indiana Jones, Asteroid City, Oppenheimer, Barbie, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, cool. It's nice that you had a list just ready to go. Is
That's
there
just on
anywhere
my
that people can find this list of yours, your reviews of
oh
films?
yes, on my Letterboxd account,
Of
where
course. Of course.
such a peak of all movie reviews are posted on it. But no, so I felt like I watched like so many. Like it's a big like for me, that's a lot of movies to watch in a summer. Um I feel like I used to watch more movies when I was younger, but just like getting older, I just find not having a lot of time to watch movies. And when I sit down to watch a show, my wife doesn't really like turning a movie on. She just prefers watching something like fast and easy, like a TV show, even though we'll end up watching the TV show for longer than most feature-length movies anyway. I digress, but it's funny because like I felt like I saw everything that came out, and yet looking at this list, I still missed some of the biggest releases like uh Little Mermaid, Flash, that Transformers movie, which also bombed, the Fast and Furious, which I've not seen and don't care to see. Elemental is probably the only one of those I've listed so far that I missed that I actively want to see.
We
Like,
watched Elemental 2 weeks ago,
mhm,
and, you know, it was good. I think it was a flawed movie. And I think
sure.
the racial allegory falls apart when you think about it for more than 5 seconds, but it was a cute story. I enjoyed it.
That movie, I don't understand that movie at all because the marketing for it sucked. The lead up sucked. I was not interested in all. It came out and was just getting plastered across the headlines as
Mm-hmm.
this is a flop from Disney. Um, like this is the worst movie of the summer. It's failing. And then 4 weeks went by, and I checked the headlines, and it was like Elemental is the highest grossing animated movie since Frozen 2. And I was like, what?
How did this happen?
When? Yeah. What? And it's like,
It's
and
just
it's
a real
making
record scratch moment.
nice. No, but like, it's making me wonder if like movie studios are like, I wonder if they'll learn from that and start to pivot because I feel like this could be a trend moving into movies in the future, which is word of mouth advertising. I think so many movie studios bank the success on their movie off of opening weekend numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they're going to start experimenting with advertising techniques where they continue to pump money into the marketing. Because I think most studios, they kind of kill it after like a week, 2 weeks. They just stop marketing the movie at all. Even after, right after it comes out, they lay back a ton. And then they'll do the whole, this is the #1 movie in the world right now because it's the only movie in theaters. And like
Yeah.
every studio does that. But like, I wonder if they're going to start doing more guerrilla tactics where they're trying to get trending on social media because I think that's what made Elemental all that money is it came out, nobody was interested in it, and then people started talking about it on social media like, this movie is actually really good. And then everyone's like, oh,
Yeah. So the marketing campaign for Elemental was really bad. For whatever reason, they decided to focus on Claude, like the annoying
yeah, the worst
who's
character.
only in the
I
he's
heard
only
he's
in the
not even
movie
in
for
it.
like 5 minutes. Like he's
Yeah.
nothing. I don't know why they. I think the cringiest thing I saw was there was like an official Pixar post. You know, okay, so you know those memes where they have like handheld footage in a theater, and like when a character walks on screen, like everyone in the theater just erupts into like, yeah,
Yeah.
Morbius. They did one of those for Claude, like an official Pixar marketing thing where it's just some guy with his phone camera in the theater, and when Claude walks onto screen, the theater erupts
I,
into cheers. But
I
as
don't
for
get it.
word of mouth marketing, I think the pinnacle of this for success is A24. Like
Yeah.
A24, I watched a video on their marketing recently, actually.
I
And
never see trailers for them.
no, they don't. They do not do traditional marketing. It's
Yeah.
all word of mouth. You've never seen a trailer or a mid-roll ad for Everything Everywhere All at Once. You've never seen a mid-roll ad for Moonlight. Like, everything
Yeah.
they do is word of mouth, and it has kind of given them a veneer of prestige, even though they don't make a ton of movies. They distribute a ton of movies,
You know what I
and you
think
never hear about their
A20.
bad ones
No, you don't. And they're good at covering it up.
because they don't market it.
You want to know my take? I think A24 is the Western live action equivalent of Studio Ghibli.
You think so?
Not in terms of content at all, but in terms of like the way it's handled. Like Studio Ghibli, it's another one of those like super prestigious films where there's hardly ever any marketing around their films. They come out and they're praised, and the ones that aren't so good are never really talked about again or noticed.
See, that's an interesting take because I don't know. Have you ever looked at how many things A24 releases and produces?
A
Like
lot. Yeah, they do.
Euphoria is A24, Has Been
Yeah.
Hotel on YouTube is A24, and Studio Ghibli. Yeah, they're big films.
They do more than you think too, though. That's another thing about them is they've got their hands in more.
And I agree with you in terms of like prestige in the West. But like Studio Ghibli in Japan is massive. Like Spirited Away is still the highest grossing film in Japan ever.
Yeah, and A24 films are never going to be the highest grossing films.
They'll be critically acclaimed.
That's the thing, is like you want to praise their marketing tactics. Absolutely no one in the industry is going to copy them. Like if somebody came into a meeting and was like, look at A24, it's like, yeah, they're critically acclaimed, but notice how they're not making like any money.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, it's funny though, like,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just thinking, I saw the other day that, do you know that Mission Impossible was a financial disaster? Like
I did not.
They lost money off the newest Mission Impossible. I heard that and I was like, what?
Interesting, because I don't consider that one a flop. I know a lot
No,
of people went to see it.
Oh, it was a huge flop. I think let me look it up right now.
Sounds good.
How
So do you
much
think in
money-
large part a lot of these like summer blockbuster, well, things that would have been sure bets, summer blockbusters in the past are failing because of marketing, or is it because of audience fatigue? I don't know. Like, why aren't people going to see these movies? Or
Real quick,
are
it
people
lost 100 million.
Wow, that's lost as much as Dial of Destiny.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing is movie studios struggling to figure out what the next big thing is. I have a good friend who always goes on record for saying that Marvel movies are not Western movies. They're not going to go the way of Western movies. It's a completely different format because every story is something different and they're in different genres. I'm starting to disagree with that, and I was watching a discussion about it online where people were pointing out that in each like decade there's like these big movies. Like you had the westerns, then you had like the like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like really macho
So like
man
your action movies.
and then early 2000s you had like the raunchy comedies like Superbad and like those kind of like movies, and then now 2010s you had superhero movies. Like you cannot deny that from 2010 to 2020 superhero movies ruled the world. It was everything. But now in the 2020s superhero movies are starting to be not as favorably viewed in the eyes of the public. I would not claim to say that superhero movies are starting to fail or they're like going out of business. I still think there's a huge market in superhero movies, and I think they've got a couple more years to milk it, and they can easily extend it for another decade or two if they figure out how to make it fresh. But I think most audiences aren't seeing what they want to see in theaters right now, and I think studios are trying to figure out what is it that audiences want to see, like what are the new movies, and I'm not sure that I have the answer to that.
See, this is interesting because there. How do I want to go about saying this? So, there's been talk of the death of mid-budget films. Like everything is super high budget or it is low budget. But at the same time, there's this new genre of film that is made just to go on streaming. You've heard of Ghosted, right?
The Chris Evans Ana de Armas movie that was awful.
Yes, but it was not. It was deliberately made to not be good. It was deliberately made for audience retention. They are trying to craft movies for streaming that are just for streaming that aren't good. They are just there to keep people watching for as long as they can. And Ghosted is one of them. It is one of the first forays into retention-based filmmaking, I think.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know very little about streaming, but don't movies made for streaming platforms, isn't it like they get more money based off of watch time rather than views? Because at a movie theater, you pay for the ticket. They don't care if you show up. They made their money. But like streaming, I don't know. Streaming it's such a new and complicated world, and it's so confusing. It's almost like there's a giant strike going on about it because nobody knows what it is or what it's going to be. And like,
yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, man. The problem is they're not profitable streaming services yet because they cost a lot of money to maintain and build a library and pay people residuals. And so even if they have a large, like, I think last time I checked, Netflix and Hulu, no, I think just Netflix is the only like profitable streaming service. Let me double check that real quick before I spread some information online.
No, I believe that, but I don't know. Netflix is probably my least favorite one.
Netflix and Hulu. I was right. I held my tongue with Hulu, but it was there. Okay. Netflix and Hulu are the only two major streaming services that made a profit by the end of 2022. Okay. So you are trying to support your own content ecosystem kind of like you would a TV channel with all this premium content without the support of advertising. Yeah. And that is incredibly difficult.
Well, they run ads for like streamed content on social media, but you don't see trailers for it at movie theaters. But
no, I mean like advertising in app, right? Like if you turn on a TV channel, there's a commercial break, and the TV channel makes money by leasing out to that airtime. Streaming doesn't have that, and that's one of the draws that people have to streaming. But it's also the problem and why they're not profitable.
Largely going away. I feel like most streaming platforms are offering ad-free versions, but the base package for almost every streaming service now is with ads. So and there's also price markups. Everything is starting to get marked up. So it's not going to be long until we're just back in the cable TV disaster where things are just going to keep getting more expensive. Ads are going to get unavoidable. Like once you corner the market, you can do what you want with it. And as long as they're not overstepping their boundaries so much as to make all of their audience jump to another ship. It's like not to switch to a totally different medium, but it's like in the video game community, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo. Xbox started off the trend of you have to pay to play online. And they kept that up for years. And PlayStation and Nintendo weren't doing it. And it was a horrible system where you had to pay to play online. No other game system making you do it. And eventually PlayStation went, hey, Xbox is still successful and people are willing to pay money for something we can give them for free. So now we're going to start charging them. And then Nintendo was like, oh, well, we can't be the only people not charging people to play online because that's free money. Now it's not even a thing. The only place you can play online for free is PC. Like, and then you're
You're
paying
paying for
internet.
internet. Yeah.
So it's like, but at least you're not paying for online on top of it, because if you're playing online for Xbox, it's on top of the internet you're already paying for. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of see that same um, pattern with streaming. Like, I think they do something horribly, people get upset. Other companies go, their viewers were willing to tolerate that, so maybe ours will too.
Okay. I could see that. Let's go back to the blockbusters and films that have released this summer.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to say about that actually is I was just thinking, if you look at so many of the blockbusters that came out this summer, it's a lot of sequels, reboots, remakes. I think that could be a part of that pattern we were talking about. A part
People
of that,
want
like,
something new. They're finally ready.
I think that reboots and remakes were such a good idea before, when like people were like, "Oh, my childhood, like you're giving me Jurassic Park again, you're giving me Ghostbusters again, you're giving me Star Wars again." But I think it's kind of worn out its welcome, and they've kind of already redone all of the biggest things from most people's childhood that, within reason, there's always more they can milk. But I think until our generation gets to a point where they can start rebooting things from when we were growing up, I think that they need to shift, because all of my favorite content currently being produced is original content. It's not sequels, it's not remakes. Like, I think of my favorite shows and like movies and series, it's like they're all just fresh original concepts. I'm like, okay, I'm behind that.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a market for new stuff, which is fantastic, because for the longest time that was one of the big gripes that people had, that it's just all reboots and remakes. We want some original content. Little Mermaid. I did not see it. I had no desire to see it, mostly because the fish, bro. Like, how does Disney mess up the appeal? Like that's why allegories work. That's why animated animals work, because they have universal appeal. They can be super expressive, more than a real fish. I just, dude, like, how do you botch that so bad?
I don't know. I didn't see Little Mermaid either, but it wasn't for any of the reasons like that, some people did. There are a lot of people that didn't see for this reason, but the main reason I didn't see it was because I just don't support the live action Disney movies at all. Like, I went to a couple, but I think I'm at a point where I'm just gonna firmly plant my feet and say I'm not going to another live action. I think animated movies are a valid form of content, and they don't need to be recreated. They don't need to be remade.
I agree. They are, in many ways, a timeless medium that anyone can enjoy. And it just drives me nuts. We've talked about this many times, Aidan, that people do not treat animation as a movie. An animated film never makes as much as a live action movie, it seems like.
No, live action, like the live action Little Mermaid, night and day. If you look at if the animated Little Mermaid probably made pennies compared to it. So like, from a corporate standpoint, it's such an easy thing to just be like, yeah, let's do this. But it bothers me because Disney's starting to run out of them, and now they're like, there's a live action Princess and the Frog, there's a live action Moana, there's a live action Tangled on the way. Tangled is probably one of my favorite animated Disney movies of all time, if not my favorite animated Disney movie of all time.
It's really good.
Lion King, sorry. But
Emperor's New Groove, man.
Yeah, it's good, but I'm not gonna jump on the bandwagon. Like, I didn't really grow up watching it a lot, so I don't want to act like, oh yeah, I've been behind this from day one. But Lion King, yeah, like Moana is not even a decade old. Like Tangled, like these movies just, they don't need to be.
No,
they don't need to be live action. And so I didn't see The Little Mermaid, and I never plan to because I just think it's such a soulless money grab, and I could extend that to Haunted Mansion, like making movies off of their rides, like.
Especially when the Muppets version came out 2 years ago. How is Danny DeVito going to compete with Gonzo? He's Gonzo.
I know.
All right, Across the Spider-Verse. That was good. I really liked that.
Yeah, I enjoyed Across the Spider-Verse quite a lot. I think it was well done. I feel like I've seen a lot of controversy about it recently.
There was a lot of crunch, yeah.
The crunch, yeah, the working conditions, but also a lot of people are upset because have you seen all the things about the version released in theaters and the version released on digital?
Oh, just that there were multiple versions in theaters and they're just lost media at this point.
Yeah, and so people were upset. They're like, what's the point of that? And like,
I'm gonna be real with you, dog. That's what bonus features are for. Like, yeah. They're just a couple of scenes, really short scenes that were different. Just shove those on bonus features. It's not.
Well, and they're barely, they're hardly, none of them are consequential changes. It's not like, there's this new scene. It's just like, we took this line of dialogue out. We made the color here different. We made this pose different. It's like, yeah, why? But, I mean, it doesn't really bother me, but, I can see why people are annoyed. I saw something really funny about it where somebody was like, it's like, how come everybody just stopped talking about Cross the Spider-Verse? It was, the most talked about thing on social media for months, and then it just dipped off. And someone was like, because all the fans went to school.
Man. Anything else on Spider-Verse, or should we move on?
I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say on it?
I don't know. I've talked about it a lot with you. I think we should rapid fire through this so we can get to Tomatoes drama.
Yeah.
All right, Transformers, Rise of the Beasts. Didn't see it. Don't care to see it. And it was a huge flop. I'm just not a Transformers guy. Elemental, we talked about that. The Flash.
Didn't see it. Don't care to see it.
I might watch it now that it's on Max, formerly HBO. But I don't know, man. Having Ezra Miller still be your star,
it's just such a slap in the face, too.
The CGI being, quote, deliberately bad is major copium in my...
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're like, well, it was that way on purpose. It's like...
yeah, sure, buddy.
Being bad on purpose is, not really an excuse.
Bro, that's what I did in high school. I'm like, this is deliberately bad, so it's funny. No, don't do that in your billion-dollar movie. It's not billion.
Yeah.
Anyway, Asteroid City, still on my list. I actually have heard really mixed things about Asteroid City.
It's probably not my favorite Wes Anderson. It's probably not high on my list. It was good. It was weird. It was the first Wes Anderson my father-in-law ever saw. I took him to see it, and I was like, this was a bad one to start on. It's very, very obscure and vague, but...
That's like when I was trying to get my family into Doctor Who in 2013, and I started them off on the 9th Doctor. That was a mistake. Should have just thrown them into Tennant. No Hard Feelings. I've heard that one was actually pretty good. Kind of a callback to the raunchy comedies of the 2000s.
That's what I've heard.
New. I've heard it was good. Yeah. I haven't seen it, though.
I haven't seen it either. Fast and the Furious. Haven't seen it. Don't care.
I haven't seen any Fast and the Furious movies.
I've seen Tokyo Drift. That was the only one I watched, and it was just because someone was watching it on a small pop-up tablet, and I watched it over their shoulder.
All right. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I haven't seen it.
I enjoyed it. I definitely accept all the criticism. They really do need to let the character
Harrison Ford go.
You can do an Indiana Jones movie, but let it be the next generation at least. But
I don't think Harrison Ford has to be Indiana Jones. I'm sure there are stories to tell, but pull a Solo, recast him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was good. It was a fun movie if you don't look at all of the the cash grab. It's like going to see Little Mermaid. It's probably an enjoyable movie, but if you're jaded like I am, then you don't enjoy it. And so I think that was my thing on Indiana Jones, is I didn't have the jaded perspective going into it. I didn't really know anything about it and wasn't in the conversation about it. But
Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken by DreamWorks.
did not see that.
Haven't seen it. I've heard Major L from Puss in Boots to this, so
Yeah.
that's a
I
bummer.
don't know. I haven't heard any. I actually haven't even heard anything about the movie.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I've
We
heard
talked
that this
about
is
that.
really good. I haven't seen it. I want to.
I was trying to watch all of the Mission Impossible movies so that I could go see it in theaters, but I definitely missed my window. But no, my dad saw it and he said he really liked it. Really surprised it lost $100 million, but
Yeah.
I don't think that matters because I think they've just about finished the next one, so it's going to come out no matter what, and that's the end of the series. So even if this is like, oh, boding bad for the franchise, like, it's done anyway.
Barbie. I really liked Barbie.
I
That
enjoyed.
was
I
fun.
really liked Barbie. Yeah, it was a really fun movie. I think it's in that vein of new creative ideas, but not for long because apparently they're just going to exploit the
Doing
brand.
a Mattel universe. J.J. Abrams doing Hot Wheels. What? Dark and gritty.
Yeah.
Speaking of dark and gritty, Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. I really liked Oppenheimer.
I haven't seen it yet, man.
You still haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it. I haven't.
That was
been able
one
to
worth
get-
seeing in theaters. That's
I want to see it. I bet it's still in the theaters. Frankly, it's
you're a filmmaker, Jason. You're into film. Go
Yeah.
watch Oppenheimer with the perspective that there isn't a single CGI shot used in the film, and you will like see some of these sequences where they kind of like show like atoms moving and stuff, and like physics, like deep like universe stuff, and it's like, how did they do that? And then I watched a video of like showing like the process for like filming those shots. It's so cool. It'll blow your mind, and it
I
keeps
really
you
wanna
engaged
see it.
despite
I just-
being yeah.
just haven't had the time. And I was gonna go see it myself, and then Corinne said, "Hey, I want to see that too," and it just didn't work out. So I might just
Yeah.
sneak away on a Thursday.
Mm.
Haunted Mansion. I've said
We
my
already talked
piece.
about that,
Moving
yeah.
on. August. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I want to see it. I just
I
haven't,
love
dude.
that movie. It was so good, but I could talk a lot about that.
How much turtle content have you consumed in your life?
Not a ton. I had Teenage Mutant Turtle action figures growing up. I liked Leonardo because he had the swords, and I don't really think I watched any of the movies growing up. I didn't watch any of the TV shows. I just knew about them because they were big pop culture. This might be the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, TV show, anything I've ever watched.
Huh. Well, I think you
Like-
picked a good one.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it because I feel so exposed to them, but it's just because I know a lot about pop culture, and so it's like I feel like I've seen all the movies, but I actually don't think I've ever sat down and even the Michael Bay ones I never watched.
Yeah, I don't think those were very good personally. Anyway, Gran Turismo. The only thing I've heard about this is my friends walked out of it near the end.
Oh,
But
I heard it was really good.
I've heard it was good too.
Katie and I want to go see it.
Gamer
All right,
race
let's do
cars.
Blue Beetle and let's talk about Rotten Tomatoes really quick and let's wrap it up.
All right, Blue Beetle.
Didn't see it.
I didn't see it, but I heard it was okay, just okay.
Yeah. So you
So-
see that Aquaman got its first trailer like 2 months away from the movie
That's
release?
'cause allegedly, I don't know if it was a joke.
The lost media joke where they said they
Yeah,
accidentally deleted it.
they lost it somewhere in their servers. They're like, we gotta
so
find
funny.
it. I hope
Yeah.
it wasn't a joke. That's so good.
All right,
All
take us
right.
away on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's talk about that really quick.
Okay, because we are running out of time. We are actually over in this episode. So this entire list I'm looking at is on Rotten Tomatoes, and that is the drama. You see, it has come to light that a couple of marketing firms, I think actually just one marketing firm, has been paying people with critic credentials to review movies on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, they
Yeah.
haven't been telling them to give them good reviews, but they've been paying for people to go see movies. They've been giving them like press release packages.
Whenever you're paid by a company, video game, movie, you're always going to be inclined to be a little nicer because it's like, well, I
Yeah.
mean, they took me out to this event. I don't want to like say much of crap on the movie, but
Speaking of which, this episode is brought to you by Carabiners. Just
oh yeah,
kidding.
yeah, I love
But yeah,
carabiners.
conflict of interest. That seems to be the name of the game with these
Yeah,
reviews. And it kind of has a bigger question about like the role of Rotten Tomatoes in film discourse. Like,
yeah,
you've seen the packaging for like movies nowadays, and they have like certified fresh on Rotten
yep.
Tomatoes is like a selling point. Not on Crossworlds because it's Crossworlds, but I don't know, man. Like this website was not meant to be like the end all be all of film critique and criticism. And I
Yeah.
don't think there is just one nexus of like a nexus of information for if a movie's good or bad. I just
Yeah.
think that, maybe the tomato meter has been given too much like
No, it
weight.
definitely has too much power. There's people in my life that bother me with this where they just I don't like it when people base their opinion on a movie off of the critic score. I almost always try to base my opinion off of actually seeing the movie, and if it's not a movie I've seen, then I just try to pour over as much user reviews as I can. See like actual people who saw it, try to get a consensus
So do
if
you
I care
trust
about it.
audience score more than like the critic score?
I don't trust the Rotten Tomato like I don't trust the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. I trust what I hear from the audience
Yeah.
on like Twitter or Instagram or
hmm
TikTok. Like I don't really ever take into consideration the audience score.
Like you will seek out the critics that you listen to, not necessarily the amalgamate score. Um, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't
I
know.
think I'm definitely guilty of thinking about seeing a movie, checking Rotten Tomatoes, and be like, it's not very good. I won't go see it. I
I
think Metacritic might be a better source, personally.
Metacritic is good, but I think Rotten Tomatoes does serve its function of telling you kind of 1 to 100 how good is this movie. They're usually pretty right with that, unless it like goes down into like a niche like oh, but I love Star Wars, so I don't care that you gave Revenge of the Sith 43%. I love this movie, like but I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, that's kind of the Rotten Tomatoes drama. Um, People getting paid to go see movies, a little bit of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, but
Uh,
there's no really way around it. Like that's just like they're not gonna stop like and even if they're not paying them, it's like it's so customary for like movies to be like, "Hey, come out to the red carpet." Like they're always going to schmooze people and it's like there's no way around it. Like the solution is not to just stop altogether. It's just I don't know.
I guess being more upfront, because like in YouTube videos where there's a product review, at least I've seen this recently. Like if someone is reviewing a camera, they will be upfront about it. Like, yeah, Blackmagic sent me this camera early for me to test out, but they don't
Hmm.
know what I'm going to say in my review until it comes out, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Well, that's how I feel about Video Game Donkey. Like, and again, in the video game spirit, that's why I trust him as a critic for most things, is because he has a history where he got paid by Xbox to review a bunch of games, and he just bashed them, and Xbox canceled the payment on him, made him take down all the videos, and like didn't pay him at all. Like, I was like, okay, I respect that. Like, I heard that, and I was like, I respect anybody who's willing to just put their opinion forward, regardless of whether they're getting paid to do something. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So maybe a
That's
little disclaimer, like on the review, like I was paid to see this movie by Paramount,
yeah, there
something
should be.
like that. All right.
That's all I have to say on the subject, and I think it's a good time to wrap up.
I agree. So anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Media Pending Podcast. It was a good time. Hopefully, you didn't think our insights were too, I don't know, pretentious, too film bro-y.
Negative. I don't care.
Negative. All right, bye.
Bye.